Assalamu alaikum, dear friends. Bismillahir-Rahmanir-Rahim. Let's begin by bringing our finest attention to our breath with gratitude. What a beautiful companion the breath is. Sustaining us moment by moment. And every breath that we receive consciously contributes to the building of the soul, that spiritual body that endures, that sustains us in remembrance, that allows us to be in a state of Taqua, vigilance, consciousness of God. So breath by breath, we awaken awareness and gratitude. Breath by breath, we take a step back from our thoughts, our desires, our preoccupations, and settle into the heart. Settle into the heart where we're close to our essential self, that pure witnessing capacity. It's not a process of thinking. It's not of the head. Let the head settle into the heart. And with every out-breath, we can say, La ilaha. And with every in-breath, illallah. Emptying ourselves of the idols that our ego creates. And with every in-breath, awakening to the inflowing spirit in this moment. Emptying, awakening, emptying and awakening. La ilaha illallah. And be grateful that we have this moment just to relax, to let go, to drop our preoccupations, our concerns, to be free of all that. And grateful to be in this presence, and to be in this presence together, which strengthens us, allows us to raise our vibration, allows us to be and perceive from a new perspective. And now join me in the invocation of the divine name Hu. Bismillah. Hu. Hu. stay with the breath of who. As we listen to a little bit of music about being a human being and about this who that is burning within us, at the very center of our being. Bismillah.
To say, now I know what a human is. Heart and soul I used to say, now the heart can show the way. Speaks about beliefs is standing on the outside. The one who finds it in himself is born from the inside. Now I know what the inside is. Though life is short, a favor came. One spark became a flame. No splitting hands or building walls. Now I know what binds us all. the truth that you are. Burning, burning Satan, O Mepana, may wisdom fill our hearts. Burning, burning Satan, burning, burning Satan.
Et voilà. So here we are again. Last month, Camille explained that she would be taking a sabbatical for a period of time. She's well, but she's focusing on deeper work and just taking some time. So our theme this month begins with the word Taqua, which we translate as, or consciousness of God, sometimes translated as fear of God. Its real meaning has to do with vigilance and being aware of the effects of our actions and thoughts and emotions. So it's a vigilance, yes, about the effects of anything we do. And Taqwa is mentioned in the Quran as the essential criteria of value for a human being, that human beings are valued according to the degree of their Taqwa. And in fact, I'll read from Surah Hashr, ayats 18 to 19. O you who keep the faith, be conscious of Allah, and let every soul look to what it has sent on for tomorrow. Be conscious of Allah, for surely Allah is well acquainted with everything that you do. And do not be like those who forgot Allah, and He let them forget their own souls. Be not like those who forget God, and who God allowed them, caused them to forget their own souls. Our subject is also will. The place of will in our spiritual work is such an important subject, but it also needs to be understood what we mean. The definition that we use for will is the ability of conscious choice. So will is exercised at that moment when we're conscious enough to really be able to choose. Human beings assume that we have will, but what is often happening is that we have many different eyes, many different nafses, and we make choices, or those selves make choices. One self may be the humble dervish. Another self may be the one that just wants to retreat into its own little world and enclosed in that world. And others want to gain attention and be known, respected for certain achievements. A lot of modern life based in social media is a game of creating a persona, an avatar, and that's not what avatar should mean, by the way. Creating a persona in the strange universe of social media, and getting people's attention that way. Will, the power of conscious choice, is a gift from the divine. When people ask, and in a moment of confusion and not knowing what to choose, they may say, I wonder what is God's will. That may not be a very useful question, because God's will simply is what's happening right now. Clearly, it must be God's will. But if we see that human will is a gift from the divine, truly, an attribute of the divine, that allows us in this life to choose, hopefully to choose the good, and to choose it consciously, and not to let that choice be taken by these sub-selves, these false personalities, these different manifestations of ego or nafs that choose unconsciously. So will exist at the moment that we can wake up and maintain that state of awakeness. And in that state, to move through life, choosing consciously, not necessarily deliberating or overthinking the choices. In fact, in that state, most likely, most of the time, there will be guidance, there will be a sense of following the path toward the good and the beautiful. And we'll be given the capacity to choose the good. We'll be also given the overview, the perspective, the wider consciousness that would allow us to choose wisely. And so this ayat that says, do not be like those who forgot Allah, and He made them forget their own selves. So, if we're going to remember ourselves, it begins by creating, opening to this wider context that we are in the divine presence. We are here by the grace of God. We have so many reasons to be grateful, no matter what our situation. And when we open up to that awareness, then we're awake to the possibility of choice. Whether those choices are achieved gracefully and easily and naturally, or whether sometimes the choice may be a very difficult one, a choice involving personal sacrifice. The possibility of even choosing what doesn't seem to be in our own self-interest. But choosing sometimes out of an irrational love, heroic generosity, to risk everything. There's a hadith that is really precious to us. Hadith about the mu'min, the person of faith. In this hadith, our beloved Prophet, peace be upon him, says, how wonderful is the situation of the believer, the faithful one, the mu'min. For their affairs are good. If something good happens to them, they give thanks for it, and that is good for them. And if something bad happens to them, they bear it with patience, And that is good for them. And this is the situation of the believer, the mutmin. So, this capacity of choice, it really comes into play the more we are living from our essential self. And what we mean by the essential self, first of all, it's not necessarily a thing. It is a state on a spectrum. The state we hopefully achieved a little bit in the meditation that began our session today. When we step back from our thoughts, our emotions, our fears, our preoccupations, and we come to that place in ourselves where we are experiencing ourselves as pure being, as the shahid, the witness, the objective witness in the world. God is looking for an honest witness in this world, the one who will report things as they are, including about themselves, to be honest with ourselves. So, again and again, our practice is about returning to our essential self, that state of being that precedes thought, precedes even desires. And when we're in that state, there's a kind of stability, there's a kind of centered capacity to deal with the complexity of life and to not be overwhelmed. When we find ourselves in a state where, as we all do, I know it very well myself, where there are responsibilities, there are decisions to be made, and we are facing a whole panoply of obligations, responsibilities, needs, and desires. And when we're not in our true I, that essential self, when we're really just dealing with these things, it's different I's arise, and our attention is scattered, fragmented, and we feel stressed out, we feel anxious, we feel broken apart sometimes. But our practice is again and again to regather ourselves into that I am, that state of centeredness, that state of our truer I, our fundamental I, the I that is in alignment with spirit, with Ruh, with the divine spirit that is like a dimensionless point in the heart. We only need to remember that to the best of our ability. Remember the possibility that we have a higher self. We reference our higher self. Now, higher self isn't a term in Islamic Sufi tradition, at least not explicitly. But we do have this very interesting word, Rabb, Rabbil Alameen, the Lord of the universes. And I used to think that Rabb was synonymous with Allah. And I was guided by elders who reminded me that the meaning of Rabb, yes, the Rabb is of the divine, the Rabb is an expression of God, but the Rabb is a special teaching function of the divine, and it is that each person has their own Rab, their own Lord, their own teacher, divine teacher. And we're encouraged to remember our Rab, to recall that the human being is like an axis that runs through all levels of existence. And at one level, down here with our nafs, with our driver's license, with our social media identification, that's one level. But that very self runs through all these levels of reality along an axis, an ontological axis. And at the far end of that axis, but distance is irrelevant, but at the subtlest end of that axis is pure spirit, Ru. And along with that, the teaching function of the divine, your Rab, who's always guiding, who we try to listen to, at least by simply posing the question, what does my Rab, what does my higher self ask of me now? So, our theme, Taqua, human will, the capacity for conscious choice, is a divine gift. Use it well. So, we use our will to make choices, decisions, intentions. Imagine intending something very beautiful for yourself. Well, not for yourself, but for your soul and for creation. Imagine holding that question. What beauty might I bring into the world? And it might be something very simple. It might be serving a cup of tea to a guest. Or it might be undertaking a project, a creative project. Or it might be entering into service in some new way. So, we have a teaching in Threshold Society, which is a teaching about remembering the fruits of love. And fruits of love, I should remember them. I should have them right in front of me, but I don't. But so as not to embarrass myself, in the chat, I wonder if we can take a look at the chat. How would that work? Here it is. We grow into a true spiritual community by practicing the fruits of love. Now, practicing the fruits of love in this case means shining the light of will, shining the light of the will consciously into realizing, into awakening these qualities, and the qualities that are mentioned here, specifically in relationship to community. And community, by the way, is where we attain maturity and completion in synergy with each other. Sufism is not primarily a tutorial or a solitary practice. It's a network of relationships within whatever community we have, a community of like-minded souls, lovers of God, people with yearning. So the fruits of love are attained by shining the light of will through these qualities, and the qualities are kindness, humbleness, guilelessness, what a beautiful word, guilelessness, innocence, in other words, patience, forgiveness, endurance, cheerfulness, encouragement, courtesy, unselfishness, courage, and keeping our word. So by shining the light of will, in other words, by consciously choosing these qualities in our lives, in our relationships, especially in community, by activating the fruits of love, we also bring forth the very source which is love itself. This is a kind of reverse causality. If we had such a degree of love that these fruits of love, that the tree of our love bore these fruits, that would be an extraordinary state of love. But since presumably we're not fully and completely in that state of love, we can summon that state, awaken that state, induce that state by consciously shining the light of will through these qualities. I'd encourage you to memorize them. Kindness, humbleness, guilelessness, patience, forgiveness, endurance, cheerfulness, encouragement, courtesy, unselfishness, courage, and keeping our word. And this is not just a list of noble virtues. Such a list could be very, very long. But this is a list of qualities that can be practiced in relationships, in community. That's really what gives them their focus. That's what unifies them in a coherent intention. So can you see how all these things are related, and how the importance of will makes these things possible? Will, the capacity to choose consciously in the moment, and not to just be moving through life following the path of least resistance, or following the inducements of desire or avoidance through fear. No, living with the divine gift of will, being in our essential self, being in that state that is prior to all the false eyes, all the forms of nafs that arise from aspects of the false self. But no, stepping back, and in the process of this stepping back, we are simultaneously raising our vibration. So it is a choice to raise our vibration, because at that other level we're maybe governed by fear or desire, etc., etc. But in choosing to be in that state of our essential self, we're raising our vibration to another level, and different kind of choice is possible. And these qualities that were named, they may come naturally. They may be spontaneously arising from your essential self, which is naturally endowed with qualities like this, which is naturally humble and kind, and has no hidden agendas, and is patient, and forgives, and endures, and is cheerful, keeping up the spirits of those around us, and by offering encouragement and honoring each other through courtesy and unselfishness, and when needed, finding the courage to face the challenges of this life, and keeping our word. And again, how wonderful is the situation of the believer, for all their affairs are good. And if something good happens to them, they give thanks for it, and that is good for them. And if something bad happens to them, they bear it with patience, and that is good for them. And again from Surah Hashar, do not be of those who forget God, and whom God causes to forget themselves. So the awakening of true will is attained through awakening to this wider sense of presence and the place of our will in that greater field of divine presence. And what a different life this may bring for us. Evala. I hope this is helpful and we can continue the discussion after our Ziker. And I also want to mention that this week, Guzide Chalabi, the mother of Chalabi Effendi, and the mother of Esen Chalabi, Hanum Effendi, passed away from this world. She was a dear soul and beloved to all of us. I remember her meeting my mother when the Chalabis came to New York back in the 90s. And she's been like family for us. And some of you who have gone to Konya have had the opportunity to meet her. Well, anyway, prayers for Guzide Hanum Effendi. And as she moves on into the Jannah, we come from God and to God we return. So, let's begin our Ziker. Al-Fatiha. Bismillahir-Rahmanir-Rahim. Alhamdulillahi Rabbil Alameen. Ar-Rahman-Ar-Rahim. Maliki Yawmiddin. Iyyaka na'budu wa iyyaka nasta'in. Ihdinas siratal mustaqim. Siratal ladhina an'amta alayhim. Ghayril maghdubi alayhim. Waladdallin. Amen. As long as we're in this world, none of us is free of faults, mistakes, and sins. May we be forgiven and may we be forgiving. Bismillah. Astaghfirullah. 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 Everything in existence is the manifestation of a single source of life and being. And we say these words, La ilaha illallah, to remind us of the oneness of being, and to remind us not to make idols of our ego's whims and desires. Bismillah. La ilaha illallah. 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 Stay with the breath. Be in that state of pure being. In that center point of the heart, where you're closest to God. And know that God answers all calls made in sincerity and truth. Bismillah, Ya Allah. Allah, 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 Allah. We give thanks for the light under which we gather, for our Pir Hazrati Mevlana Jalaluddin Rumi, for the generations of seekers and guides that have come before us, and for all those who have been our teachers. And we pray for the health and well-being of everyone in this gathering. For our friends, for our families, for our children, our children's children, future generations, our communities, and our planet. And we mention at this time anyone in need of prayer or healing. And may Almighty God make our intention and our awareness sound, and bring us in readiness to the center of true beginning. And may the light of this circle be received wherever it's needed. By the breath of Mevlana, by the secret of Shamsi Tabriz, by the nobility of Imam Ali, with the blessings of Muhammad Mustafa, mercy to the worlds, let us say who? Assalamu alaikum.